people just gonna get set up here. Get this going here. We should be good. This was a last minute thing. We're gonna get on here in a minute, so might as well roll with it. Alright, so let's see here. All right, so we are live on both. All right. Just going to give everybody a minute or two to filter in. We are live on Instagram and YouTube. I'm just going to, it's easy. I'm not going to be going live on Facebook like that no more. I'm just going to kind of load the recording on the Primordial Chaos Facebook page. So I'm just going to kind of do the Instagram and the YouTube. It's a little easier. It's a pain in the ass to do all three at one time. So that's kind of what we're going to roll with. All right, so I'm going to give everybody just a little bit of time to get in. All right, what's going on? All is known. Shout out to Mandela Bourne. What's going on, brother? Hope all is well. Logan Scott. Again, we're just going to give it a minute or two. Wait for people to get out of church from Palm Sunday. You know, all the fake occultists that play part-time occult, they're leaving the church. We'll give them a minute to get here. Just joking. That's just a joke. Don't nobody take that shit personally. If you do, then it applies to your ass, right? All right. We're going to give it a minute. So yes, we are just making sure that, you know, connection's good there on Instagram. We're good in both areas. All right. So I just figure it's just been real busy, so I figure I'd slide on today for a little bit. Ain't gonna be too long, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours max, something like that. It's just been real busy lately as far as personal stuff and business related stuff. So it's been a little difficult to get on as frequently as I like to. And I know this week's going to be crammed. So, and then we got the Hip Hop Occult show on Friday night. So it's going to kind of be hard to really do anything this week. So I had a little window this afternoon for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I figured I'd roll with it. So what I'll do real quick, and then we'll get into it. Just run through some announcements. Most of this stuff I posted on Friday, just to put kind of out there what's going on. We do have a upcoming class this Saturday. I think I'm gonna change it to about 2:00 instead of 3. If you're a Patreon member, you have access to the class. You don't need to do anything. If you're not a Patreon member and you would like to participate in the African Witchcraft and Sorcery class, which will take place this Saturday, I think we're gonna move it up to 2:00. And that would be with Brother Nahisi, who couldn't make the original first scheduled one because he was relocating. But we're going to go ahead and get that going this weekend on Saturday. You can sign up for the class. The information is on all three platforms. It is on the YouTube community section here, how to sign up for that class. It is also on Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram and Primordial Chaos on Facebook. That class is $56. It can be paid for either using PayPal, using the email address in the description box of the videos, which is the canoe19@gmail.com. Or you can pay by Cash App, and the hashtag when the name is capital BANITI9, Beniti 9. Once you send your payment, please include in the pay notes your email address and your name, and you will get the link for that class. So for Patreon members, you don't have to do anything. You have access to that class. If you are a non-Patreon member and you want to participate in that 3-hour class, you have to sign up for it. And that's how you do it. All right. If you're interested in a spiritual consultation, which is basically a one-on-one in regards to anything you want to talk about, There is a difference between that as opposed to a spiritual reading. I just want to make that clear. And I've been clarifying that because no matter how many times I have over the years, people still confuse it for being the same thing. It is not. I just want to make that clear. If you're interested in the spiritual reading, I put that in the description box. The type of readings that I do offer are telepathic demonic readings, readings with Santa Muerte and the spirits of the dead, a shadow work reading, which is a great place to start, ancient Egyptian deity reading, or a voodoo hoodoo reading. That is your personal choice. Either whatever one you want, reading or consultation, just specify that when you contact me via email. Let me know the days and times you are available and the time zone you live in, and we will set that up. We had a ritual this past Friday evening, the ritual of Lilith through the Citra Akra. Some crazy shit went down. I'm not going to talk about on here. I know those on Patreon might have seen the upload and wonder what happened to the second part. I will be posting a video shortly up there explaining what took place with that. That's will be something I'll correlate to the Patreon members. But if you haven't checked out the Patreon page, again, patreon.com/Beniti, BANITI, patreon.com/Beniti. And again, there's tiers. We do private classes, lectures, rituals on there. There's mentorship programs on there. And as I said before in the post that I put up, the mentorship program is an investment, more so in your time, not just a financial investment. It's time, effort, energy, and work. And if you're interested in going that route, definitely check out the page. I'm sure there's something there, a tier there for something to your liking. But it's again, it's for members only. It's where I've been doing for the last little bit over a year now, year and a few months, private classes, lectures, rituals, things of that nature. I'm sure everybody knows what a Patreon page is. A lot of people are doing it, using it. Eventually, I'm going to transition into my own personal site where I'm going to eliminate all that stuff, but more to come soon on that. So check out the Patreon page. Also, I want to keep putting out there the Journey of the Black Adept Conference, which is going to be in the last weekend in October. We are making plans to do that, in person. If there is any restrictions as far as people we can have, I'll let people know what the availability is as far as if they impose some type of maximum occupancy on us. I'll let you know, but we are planning to do that and proceed forward with doing that again back in person, and that'll take place in October. Mark your calendars for that. And I'll make sure we're pumping that up because, again, before you know it, 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, and before you know it, we're in that time already. So it's crazy. We're already at the end of March going into April. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it feels like these first couple of months of this year flying by. So mark your calendars for that. One way or the other, we will be doing it in that time period. That's Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 4. If you're not familiar with that, or I know if you've been following the channel, you should be, because we've done it the last 3 years. It is a 2 to 3, about a 3-day event, 2.5 to 3-day event, where it involves 2 days of workshops, presentations, classes, rituals, and we have a variety of speakers. If you are interested, it is never too early to reach out to me. I would like to get, we've been pretty good with rotating the presenters. I would like to get some new people too that have not stepped up in the last 3 years to do a presentation. So if you are interested, and you can do a presentation 2 ways. If you're going to be there, which is the best way, live. If you would still be interested in doing a presentation, we can also bring you in via Zoom and you can do a presentation. So keep that in mind, because again, I'm looking for newer people to step up and do a presentation on the occult or the left-hand path. Now, contact me if you are interested in doing that in October, either way, live or virtually. And just let me know, give me a brief, I just need a brief breakdown of what it is you want to present, just so it's kind of in line with what we do. And then we go from there. So again, if you're going to be here live and do it, that's great. If you're still interested and maybe you can't make it, and we're going to this year do something we had discussed because of obviously with virtual Zoom and stuff, we're going to offer it both ways. We're going to do it live, and then we're going to do what we did last year, let people sign up virtually so they can participate both ways. So you'll still be able to participate in the rituals and the classes virtually. You'll miss out on some of the personal socializing and some of the other things we do if you're not here live, but that's all good. But we're going to give people the option. They'll be able to do it both ways. You're able to either participate virtually or live. So we're going to keep those both of those options going, even well after we're not dealing with this pandemic shit no more. We're gonna just give that ability for as many people to participate as are able. So reach out to me. And if you just want information on the conference, the cost and the days, we don't have the itinerary yet. We usually get that done, a month or two out from, but you'll get a full itinerary and you'll know what we're going to do. All right. Also, check us out on all our social media platforms, patreon.com/Beniti, Primordial Chaos on Facebook, Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, which we are live on Instagram now too. And don't forget to hit the like buttons. The more likes the videos get, it expands out to more people. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, but also drop that notification bell, hit it. It is a drop-down menu. Make sure you hit all notifications if you want to make sure you get all notification when new videos or lives post. All right. I think that's pretty much all I have as far as running through some announcements. And as I see more people arriving from Palm Sunday church service, let me stop. I'm just joking. You see the title. Obviously, this last week, there's been always questions on this area. I did some work on, I think that was, Thursday night, a few days ago, and I posted a short video, 2-part video on Instagram. This is going to be kind of in line with separating the real from the fake, which to me is important, and understanding what the video titles, the hidden Gnosis of yourself. What is Gnosis, right? Gnosis is uncovering hidden knowledge of spiritual mysteries, right? In this case, we're applying that Gnosis to ourselves, right? Because in essence, that is one of the key components or reasons why we are on this path. Okay. We want to make sure that we are most definitely, that is our goal, right? That needs to be our intent. That needs to be, it's just my opinion, but I think most of you should be in line with that. That should be our main goal. Because this has got to be about self first, okay? Now, when I say self, right, and you got some people that will come in and say, all right, if I didn't greet it, I'll busting out, appreciate that, thank you, Regina Green, and anybody else that comes in after this fact, send infernal blessings and peace. Positive energy always creates elevation, right? When I say peace, that's what I mean. I want people to go, oh, there's no such thing as peace. Yeah, I get that, but that's what I mean when I say it. I will get to the chat. I'll address your questions. And again, this going to be an open flowing session. If you got some questions, comments, and you want to talk about something, throw that in there. But I want to basically focus again on the Gnosis of self. What is it you are uncovering and learning about yourself on this path? That should be step one. You should, again, as you are navigating through this path, which involves many different systems, right? We know this, right? I don't care for an example, because there's so many different spiritual paths that are involved in this system. I don't care if it's Luciferian, sorcery or witchcraft. I don't care if it's vampirism. I don't really care if you're working the draconian current, the Necronomicon, right? I don't care if you're working traditional witchcraft or Satanism, whatever it may be. If it's not centered on unlocking the real you, unlocking the hidden mysteries and the power that you possess, then it's, to me, in my opinion, it's not worth it. We're not supposed to be, again, doing things just to be doing them, right? Some people get, and it's good to have a personal routine that's centered around personal development and growth. But it's not good to have a mundane routine where you're just doing things for the sake of doing them. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about a little bit here in the beginning is intent, right? I talk about intent a lot. Intent has root in the word intention, right? We know the word intentions. People say, well, what are your intentions with, in regards to something in life? It could be in regards to a significant other. It could be in regards to pursuing a career path, right? Your intentions should be your reasons why you're trying or working to obtain something. So, but intentions or intent is critical to us on this path because it really is supposed to define, quote unquote, what our goals are. And as I've said many times before, when our intent ain't in line or it's not sound, it's not rooted on a strong foundation, or maybe it's not practical, then this is kind of why you may not get the results that you're trying to obtain. So I want to go through a very short section in a book here. And again, I'll give you guys the book, which I always do, because I think it's important for you to research these sources. This is by Nathaniel J. Harris. Some of you might, he's out of England or London. He's some would label him strange. He has a very unique personality. I mentioned that before in the past, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. Information is information. I don't care if you're Black, Latino, white, Asian. If you're dropping some information, that's all that matters to me. This is the Neuronomicon. There's so many nomicons out there, people get confused. There's the Necrominion, the Necronomicon. This is neither one of those. This is the Neuronomicon. I want to put that there. A 21st century grimoire by Nathaniel J. Harris. There's a lot of information in this book. It is not an easy read, certain aspects of it, but he's got some great stuff in here that I want to run through in brief that'll really help you get focused, grounded on your path, and maybe apply some techniques that'll help you in your practice for the purpose of getting the results that you desire. Again, I've been big from day one, but I've also been very big lately on this shit is about results. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not interested, again, as I said before, what you think you know. I'm not interested in if you read 1 million books or 10 books, because again, as I've said many times before, this comes down to being able to apply the information. So, the problem is, again, as I said before, is people, they walk around, they think they hot shit because they know something, but then when you ask them to produce results, they can't produce results. So this ain't about debating, this ain't about stroking somebody's fucking ego because they think they know something. I'm past that stage. I'm too old for that shit. Now, maybe 15, 20 years or so ago, I would engage in that type of activity because as somebody who was more younger in mental wisdom, you tend to get involved like that emotionally. But we're past that now. We're supposed to be now focused, on what am I getting done for myself? If you're not getting things done for yourself, then again, you have to question what you're doing. So I want to focus on, first of all, Gnosis. All right. Gnosis and the hidden mysteries itself. We're going to go there, and then we're going to go swing over to intent. But he's got some stuff in here on focused awareness, lining up your intent, visualization, listening, right? And I'm going to talk, there's a spiritual listening and then there's a physical listening, right? A lot of people hear, which is just they hear that that's the physical listening. Then there's other people who are really listening and they're putting the information into perspective. Vibration, which is very important. We'll talk a little bit about that. All right. Let me just make sure I get over here where the intent is. Make sure I don't lose that. All right, here we go. All right. So he's got a short breakdown in here of Gnosis. Okay. Let me read this real quick. Having attained the trances of delta and theta. What delta and theta, going into that mental state through your meditations, right? Breath control is very important, and stillness, right? I find over the years, these basic techniques people struggle with. And I'm going to tell you this, because we do a lot of visualization and path working rituals on this path. It's a skill you must have, because it opens up your psyche and it taps into your subjective consciousness, which, as we know, opens the doorways and the gateways to the subjective realms, which are limitless, right? There's no parameters, there's no restrictions or borders when you tap into that level of your psyche through your consciousness. In order to do that, though, I've been pushing for years to be disciplined in your breath control. I've mentioned the book many times by Yogi Rag Chamraja, right? Just Google it. It's called Breath Control, Science of Breath, or Breath Control. It's been put out and re-put out many times over the years. It is a book written by a Hindu Swami yoga from years back, I believe at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. I believe the book came out in the very late 1800s, early 1900s. There's techniques in there to get your breathing or your breath control discipline. Now, I've mentioned many times before, there are a lot of people who struggle with proper breathing or breath control. You're going to find out mouth breathers have a lot more issues with their circulatory system. Their spiritual, as some say, sekhem or chi, it doesn't flow properly, because you might find they breathe out of their mouths, whether they're sleeping or conscious or awake. Pay attention if you exercise, which you should be exercising, right? Pay attention, or have somebody monitor you. I've said this many times before over the years. Have somebody monitor you when you sleep. See if you're a mouth breather, because what tends to happen, remember, the process of breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth is almost like a filtration system. It filters out all of the unnecessary particles and energy, so the proper oxygen can circulate through your circulatory blood system, proper amount of blood can get pumped to the heart, etc. All this is important in your focus and your concentration. All this is really mastered and understood and disciplined through breath control, right? So it's important to establish correct breathing, right? We need to start there. This is why a lot of people will always make the statement that they struggle with obtaining states of concentration, focus, and then meditation, right? They say, it's hard for me to meditate. I get so distracted easy. Well, that could be for a lot of factors. I've talked about that many times. It could be the breath control or breathing. It could be a very poor diet, right? You could be taking a lot of things that contain artificial preservatives, chemicals, processed foods. And again, I'm not saying, because you know me, I don't push no spooky dietary agenda. I'm not saying, look, you can't eat any of those things, and anybody that says they don't to some degree is full of shit. What I'm saying is you can't eat that stuff all the time. That will affect those things, right? It could be lack of exercise, right? People think that this is not important. It is. You should be exercising a minimum of 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes to an hour. I don't care if it's brisk walking, that basic level, to if you want to, be more serious about, you're doing weightlifting, combination of different things. You should be getting that regular exercise, because that helps and assists your breathing, right? It helps and assists the circulatory system, blood flow, oxygen levels. This is all important. Obviously, it's even more important now with this COVID bullshit, even though it seems slowly but surely that thing is becoming more understood and under control. But this is something we should have been doing prior to the COVID, right? This ain't got shit to do with the COVID. We know these things are critical and important. So sometimes people ain't doing the basic shit, and they're trying to do all this intense magic and rituals, and they fucking themselves up. So breath control is very important, because I see breath control. And then I've seen when we've done group meditations over the years, and I'm going back to the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I've been in many group meditation sessions, and I find that there's people who can't obtain, what I like to call spiritual stillness. What is spiritual stillness? You guys might have experienced this too in some of your experiences. If you've ever been in a group setting or a group meditation setting where you're trying to focus, and stillness, silence, and proper breathing are the doorways to going into spiritual meditation or having spiritual experiences. But I found over the years, there have been people who can't sit still for more than a few seconds. You know what I'm talking about. You might have been in these sessions and they just keep fidgeting, moving around. You hear the bustling of the clothes. You hear them body parts moving around. You hear them changing their breathing rhythms. This is all a telltale sign that you are lacking in areas of spiritual stillness, breathing, right? Or breath control, and obtaining that, what I like to call spiritual silence. But why that usually happens, and we've done these in open settings like this, bright light, daytime, solar energy, and we've done it in the stillness of pure darkness. Now, one thing I've noticed in pure silence and darkness, that's where people who have issues struggle the most. What do I mean by that? They really tend to fidget, move around more, and get more uncomfortable because, as I said many times before, in that stillness, that darkness, and that silence, when you are focused and locked in and you're breathing correctly, your real thoughts emerge. And your real thoughts you are a byproduct of your real thoughts, no matter what they are. No matter how normal, bizarre, strange, off the wall, crazy, intense they are, this is a manifestation of the real you. This is the archetype or the character type of the real you, the real self, right? The deity self that you're trying to unlock. And that is unlocked in the stillness, the silence, and the darkness, right? Some of you guys know this in doing shadow work, right? We do exercises like this a lot in shadow work. But I've noticed in those moments over the years where people really tend to get super moving around, fidgety, and cannot get to that point where they can focus. Because you know what tends to happen? In that silence and darkness, they start, this fear sets in. They get an influx of emotions and thoughts. And what tends to happen is the mind is looking for something to cling on to get distracted with. But there's something internal emerging that they're not familiar with. So it creates almost this sense of unknown or fear. That's the hidden Gnosis of self that you need to tap into, not run from it, because people will email me and say, I did this ritual, it was a shadow ritual, and then all this strange stuff started happening, and I felt this presence, and I felt like something was getting ready to go. That's you spooking your fucking self out. That's all that is. That's that boogeyman that we always thought was in the room with us when we were a kid, right? That's that when you were a kid laying on the bed and you might have had an article of clothing hanging on the back of a door or on a dresser, and your mind start playing tricks on you, start staring at it, and it starts to take the form. You think it's a shadowy figure or it's something there. This is really how the mind operates. And what's going on there is you're starting to tap into the real you. So the fears will emerge at first until you're not supposed to back away from those experiences. You're supposed to further engage in them until you are fully able to understand it and put it into its perspective. Okay? Trying to shy away from it is not going to solve anything. And yeah, I get it. It's easier said than done. But people still struggle with confronting their insecurities and their fears. And the first aspect of unlocking the hidden Gnosis of self, or the shadow or hidden self, right, is critical, because without being able to do that, it's going to be hard for you to proceed on this path, okay, and get results. Because what are your fears, your strengths, your weaknesses? So it's not just about unlocking all of these fearful things, because I don't want to paint this picture that it's all gloom and doom. All right, so it's about embracing all of it, your strengths, your weaknesses. Obviously, there's going to be more of an emphasis on the weaknesses because that's going to identify areas of work. So now you've got a clear-cut direction to head into. That's different from then somebody just wants to come on the path, you understand, and just start doing all these crazy, intense rituals. They want to start doing these dark, intense Luciferian rituals, or they want to do, work with Kali, right? Or they want to start getting into the set Typhonian current. And then they get messed up and say, why did my life get turned upside down? Why did I lose my job, my business, or my career? Why did my wife or husband just start to leave me out of the blue for no reason? Why is all this crazy stuff happening? Because you asked for change. You're working with transformational energy. And if you don't understand how that works and you're not clear in your intent, which I'm about to get into in a minute, the spirit is going to go to work on you and just whatever needs to be fixed, it's going to do it accordingly. Because the spirit might be trying to tell you that's not the husband or the wife you need to be with. That's not the job, career, or path you should be seeking in life. So step one might be taking it completely away from you. Because sometimes the spirit works under the principle it must all be destroyed to be rebuilt back up again. Some people don't understand that concept when working with Kali, when working with Set, Sekhmet, Lucifer, especially Lilith, right? And we just did, and again, I got to explain that first I'm not going to get into that here. We just had a crazy experience with that on Friday night. Lilith is one of and this is why I know, and this is not being judgmental, it's facts. This is why I know over the years, and more so females, I got to be honest, more so females, and this is not a male chauvinistic thing. You know me, I'm going to keep it real. I ain't on any of that shit. I respect women sometimes more than I do men, and that's no disrespect to men because I've seen the spiritual power of the female. But there are a lot of superficial females out there, just like there are superficial males. There's so much bullshit out there with these females with Kali and Lilith. Everything is sexual goddess, sex this, blah, blah. And yes, that stuff is there, but the lust that's described and affiliated with Lilith is the lust for knowledge. These are the people she really connects with, her energy. It's that individual that completely lusts after knowledge. More so knowledge of what we're talking about here, knowledge of the self, the hidden Gnosis of the self. Because when you're only hearing superficial, tangible, physical shit, I did this working with Lilith, and then all of a sudden, every man on the planet started talking to me, or, my pussy was magical. No, I'm not hearing anything about transformational change. Where's that part? Where's that part where you have a catalog of results to confirm that you've connected with the spirit or the deity or the demon, whatever you want to call it, whatever floats your boat? That's what I want to hear. I'm not hearing that. Okay? Because that's how you know Lilith goes to work on those levels. Okay? So your intent needs to be in line, because if you are accessing these archetypes, spirits, and demons that work with transformational change, you may not be ready or prepared for it. And this is when things can go amok. So step one, breath control, spiritual stillness, and being able to connect with your true thoughts in silence. These are simple practices you should be doing regularly. I don't hear nobody talking about doing the basic steps, but then they'll sit there and bring up, I did this ritual and this didn't happen, and now I wonder what I did. Did I do this right? Do this wrong? And then when I go back to some of these steps, people are like, well, I didn't know. That's a problem. Okay, it's like planting a seed, right? The plant, the flower, the rose, whatever it is not going to grow if you don't plant the seeds. So I'm just using metaphors to get you to see the picture. The plant just don't poof appear out of the soil. You got to cultivate the soil. You got to plant the seeds. And when you cultivate the soil and plant the seeds, then you get the proper growth or results. Well, look at that same process with yourself. If you ain't planting those seeds and you ain't cultivating that soil, which is yourself, what do you think it's going to produce? So what happens when you don't cultivate the soil or plant the seed correctly, right? What happens? Sometimes you see a fucked up plant grows or it's distorted. It's not right. Well, the same thing happens with you. It's no different. So we got to get these principles down. Let's slide over. All right. So we talked about stillness, silence, breath control. Let's talk a little bit about mental silence a little bit more in detail. And here's a powerful practice that, in my opinion, is not done enough. This will help your concentration. When I say sit in mental silence, I'm not talking about with any music on, any sound or nothing. Try to practice, okay, sitting in utter silence and darkness, just doing nothing, literally nothing. Sometimes the brain and the mind needs to slow its thoughts down so it can put things into perspective. A lot of people I do spiritual readings for, the first thing I notice when I tap into their energy, right? And the first thing that comes up in the reading, and you can feel it, sometimes I'll get a headache. Sometimes there'll be other messages from the spirit. And that's usually a sign that the individual has an influx of thoughts constantly going through their mind. Their mind never rests. They're all over the place. They're scatterbrained. They're over here, their attention span is short. They leave that. They jump over here. They get distracted. They jump over here. This usually produces a person who does not stay consistent at anything they do. So spiritual silence or mental silence is a good skill to practice when you need that discipline. So I want to touch on that in a further little detail. And again, we're gonna work our way up to intent, which is important. All right, mental silence, and this is from Nathaniel J. Harris's book that I put up earlier, the Neuronomicon, not the Necronomicon. So please don't email me. It's the Neuronomicon, a 21st century grimoire by Nathaniel J. Harris. Let me put that up there again. Nathaniel J. Harris. All right. This is coming from page 106. Mental silence. This is a very good book. Now, I've said again before, if you tuned in late, Nathaniel J. Harris, in my opinion, I know some of you have emailed me. Yes, I believe he also has a YouTube channel. He is a very, I don't like to use the word strange, unique individual. He's a little unorthodox. People have described strange, weird. I don't care about any of that shit, to be honest with you. If I can learn something from something or somebody, I'm open to it. That's all that matters. I will say this. He has very complex writings. It's not, a lot of his books are not a super easy read. Some sections are, some aren't. So you really need to really focus when you're reading his books, because many people have emailed me over the last few years and they've described to me it's been a little hard for them to read his books. I don't really think they're hard. I think he goes very in depth in a lot of the stuff that he breaks down. So mental silence, page 106. The sorcerer now applies the above gained abilities into obtaining mental silence. Those are the ones I mentioned before. Proper breath control, breathing techniques is important. Stillness, right? Quieting, stilling the mind and the body, all of those things. Right? As before, achieve a condition of relaxation. The mind is withdrawn from all arising thoughts. This is a tough thing for people to do in meditation and rituals. This is why I've always said advice over the years. When doing rituals, never go into the rituals fully stuffed. I never recommend doing ritual work after eating a super big meal. Right? That's just common sense. That's stupidity, because the body is going to be stressed, absorbing and digesting the meal. It's going to pull energy from you. We know this. We know what happens when you eat a meal. We say you got the itis, right? What is the itis? You get the itis. It makes you sleepy. It makes you want to. So I don't suggest. I know this sounds fucking basic, but believe it or not, there's some people who don't even practice that shit. So don't go stuff your face and then go, oh, I'm about to go to my ritual chamber and do this intense ritual. No. Not a good thing. So let's make sure we are covering the basic stuff. So don't overeat before you do meditations, workings, ritual exercises, whatever. It's okay to eat something light. You also don't want to go into a ritual starving, completely hungry. But if you need to get something in your system, make sure it's light and nutritious. So you're not exerting too much energy in the digestion process, okay? And you're not also feeling hungry to the point where you're not focused in concentration. So that's personal. You need to decide how you feel when it comes to energy and food before you work a ritual. Obviously, you want to make sure, this is another basic word of advice that people struggle with. Make sure you are in a right frame of mind. So don't go into a ritual, working, meditation, exercise if you just got into an argument with somebody, or you're conflicted about something, there's something going on and you still got it fresh on your mind. That might be something you want to check at the door, right? And obviously you're not going to be disturbed. Make sure those basic things are in line. If those are in line, then you can obtain trying to clear the mind properly of distracting thoughts. Now, I've always said for years, always practice some form of decompression breathing before you begin your spiritual work. You've seen, if you've worked with me over the years, whether it's through Patreon, through private classes, or you've been with me here live doing rituals, we always do decompression breathing before we begin our ritual work. Again, Yogi Rakcham Raka's book, Science of Breath Control, get it. It'll assist in that. All right. So now we must withdraw from all rising thoughts. Whenever a thought arises, it is to be banished with an attitude of simultaneous attachment and disattachment to all phenomena. Does not matter, need not be. This simple shift brings quiet not only to the conscious mundane mind, but also to the subconscious fears and instincts. Now, do you see the importance of mental silence? This will prevent a lot of your fears and insecurities from emerging, and it'll give room for those real thoughts to emerge. Now, as I said before, all right, as I said many times before, we must remove the old, because if we can't remove the old, the stagnated things about ourselves, the old ways, the old things that we're attached to, we don't leave any openings or room to manifest the new things that need to emerge about us. And I was just talking about that on that video a few days ago. Okay? So some people are still doing old bullshit, whether it's making bad decisions, bad life choices, bad dietary choices, bad personal decisions. And then the same pattern of bullshit repeats itself. And then they want to turn around and wonder, why ain't things going right for me? Because you're repeating the same old pattern. You keep manifesting these stagnated thoughts and energy about yourself where you have not disciplined yourself enough to clear that out so the real you can emerge. The potential that you have can take hold, okay? All right, then it goes on to say, all worries and doubts cease to distract, and a sense of dynamic security permeates all being. You may experience an immediate influx of intuitive awareness of the absolute, bringing a feeling of Gnosis. Immediately, all the forces of the mind are brought together. You may become aware of new attributes within yourself and the limitless potentials that may be tapped through disciplined meditation. I've said for years, I know every quote unquote spiritual system promotes the importance of meditation. But I've always, because we do so much visualization work, meditation and the skill and art of it is very important to what we do, because without it, as I said earlier, you can't tap into the power of your subjective consciousness, okay? In order to really tap into the power of your mind and its potential, these are doorsteps or steps or beginning stages to tapping into that power that you must work on, okay? Yeah, I know you'll run into some special motherfuckers who think, yeah, I got a down pack, or yeah, I'm locked in, or it just seems, because they're special. You got the special motherfuckers that they're so special and deep, you can't tell them anything. But then again, when you look at the example, the life they lead, what they're doing doesn't reflect on any of the shit that they're talking about. So that's a whole nother story. But anyway, all right. So such experiences are indicative of having attained around a 7 hertz theta, right? People talk about when you get into a theta state, right? That takes you different levels of theta through vibration is what gets you to certain levels of spiritual experiences, right? So this is all about conditioning yourself to speed up your vibrational frequency. That's what I'm trying to show you here. Once that vibrational frequency is sped up, then you can become open and receptive to different levels of consciousness, right? You can become open and receptive to really tapping into and connecting with your personal daemon or your higher self, which really is the bridge to all facets of this path. Demons, spirits, archetypes, whatever you want to call it. It's all linked in and it's all connected, okay? While it has been the recent fashion to teach that the deeper the trance, I like this part here because it's true, the more powerful the magic. It has been demonstrated that psychic abilities are more readily accessed during theta. The deeper delta trances are more efficient use in the healing at the level of DNA. While a regime that regularly sought to boost delta signals would be detrimental to brain activity overall, as well as producing changes in character, such as reduced humor and a tendency to depression, right? And that's important to understand when you're working with different energies and frequencies, spirits, demons, whatever you want to call them, you are opening yourself up to those spiritual frequencies and vibrations. So more critical and important to understand what you're working with, because what if you're not in the right state or receptive state of mind to work with this energy? As Nathaniel J. Harris is saying here, it can bring, in some cases, what one would call states of depression. That's fact. And this is because we're applying the science. There is a science to this path, right? This is not just completely faith-based and theosophical in nature, right? Though there's a such thing on this path, as I said many times before, personal faith, right? Personal faith and confidence in yourself. That's different than a religious or a dogmatic faith. That's not the same thing, right? All right. Then it goes on to say, this should be performed at least once per day with all results recorded in a magical diary. So say you do this, he's just giving a suggestion there. If you are doing, maybe you're going to do a test run for X amount of days or weeks. You can practice some of these techniques and then simply chart your progress. Now, remember, I said many times before, people think I'm joking when I say this. This path is work. Work on yourself. You must be doing these things, testing things out, experimenting, experiencing, so you can gauge your progress or lack thereof, your progress, right? That's what work is. So what work research are you doing that you can gauge and analyze and look at yourself and say, okay, this is working. That's not working. I need area of improvement here. I need to work better here. Okay, this is working really well. I'm going to keep this like this, just fine tune it and keep moving forward, etc. All right, all of these things need to be looked at and analyzed, right? Because now you have some data, right, to go by rather than just speculate, right? To speculate means you're uncertain, right? But when you have information in front of you, when you have detailed data in front of you, you can now utilize this and as a tool now of how you need to proceed forward. This is called documenting your work, right? Ask yourself, are you really doing that? Because don't just say I did something that didn't work and I don't know why it worked, because you don't have anything to really use to make that, prognosis or to make that decision. You understand? But when you're taking these steps, you have tools now that you can use to gauge where I'm at. All right. All right. Gnosis. Let's get there, and then we're going to go into intent. I want to see if I can get into vibration. I'm going to try. I want to finish with a couple more because, like I said, I'm only going to be on here for a limited time. I'm going to be on here for much longer. Then I want to leave a little time for questions. All right. So let's talk a little bit further about Gnosis. All right. Having attained the trances of Delta and Theta and explored the various disciplines, the sorcerer next trains their brain to activate the gamma frequencies. Now, the gamma frequencies will unlock the hidden Gnosis itself, and I'm going to explain. I'm going to go through that, right? So when people say, how do I do this? How do I work this path? This is how you do it. And usually most people are not searching hard enough to find the knowledge and the information they need. Everything is out there, people. Trust me when I tell you. It's just maybe you're not looking in the right areas, or maybe you're depending on the wrong people to push you in the right direction. Okay. Like I say, I don't look for people to just follow me. I look for people who are going to be motivated to do for themselves. My job and what I do, even through the mentorship program on Patreon, is to get you pushed in your personal direction for yourself so you can find your way. That's what this is about. This isn't about joining a group, a club, or an organization, or coming up under somebody that you think is going to take you to the promised land, because that's not going to happen. The only person that's going to get you where you need to be is yourself. That's it. And along the way, there's going to be struggles. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. And anybody that promotes this as being easy, that you're not going to have issues, concerns, problems in your life, they're full of shit. And they don't know what they're talking about. And again, anybody, as I said before, that sells you some quick fix, okay, is full of shit too. They don't know what they're talking about. And there's probably some agenda following shortly behind that. All right. Gnosis, continuation. Here's a little detailed exercise. The gamma frequencies, these being a greater cohesion to overall brain activity. Pay attention to this. Allowing for the integration of conscious and subconscious phenomena. So remember, the subconscious and the conscious is basically another term for your subjective and and even the superconscious. We need to factor that in. But it's understanding and bridging for simplistic terms, the spiritual realm and the physical realm, or the subconscious and the conscious. Because in order for that to work in harmony, in order to obtain and unlock that hidden Gnosis itself, there must be an integration, as it says here, of the conscious and subconscious phenomena. See that? This is all hopefully to help you to understand, again, why you may not be getting results or why you may be getting results. Maybe you're using these techniques. I'm not saying you need to use them word verbatim as it's being described here. Again, this is just a general outline to help you see and use this as a tool to see, are you doing these things in some shape, form, or fashion? And if not, I guarantee you here lies some of the reasons why you might be having issues. All right. Now, this is achieved by adopting the posture known in ancient Babylon as raising the hands, and in Tantra as the Namaskar Mudra, placing the palms together before the chest to create a circuit in the universal gesture of prayer. We see this all the time. Even Christianity adopts it, right? You see people meditate, they'll bring their hands together like this, and then they'll bring it into the chest. Because really what you're doing, and again, this also ties into what we were talking about, the breathing, circulation, blood, oxygen. You're creating a circuit of energy when you're doing this, right? You see this in a lot of cultures, right? Right. Do you ever ask yourself why modern day Christianity, and especially in traditional Catholicism, people kneel down in the pew and pray, and a traditional Catholic, you see now most people do this, that's something else, but they'll do this, they'll put their hands together, right? All of this stems from that position, right? The eyes are then turned upward and all attention is turned to the visualization of light. As before, you may experience a sense of limitless potentials of consciousness. There may be a sense of intellectual and emotional cohesion with the rational and instinctive aspects of mind coming into balance, right? With clear communication between left and right hemispheres of the brain. This is what I said earlier. When you're doing these techniques, the real thoughts, the real you starts to emerge. This is where people struggle because fear kicks in. So when the right and left hemisphere of the brain are working in union together, and the real thoughts, the very thoughts that are the very essence of you start to emerge, this is where you start to now understand the hidden Gnosis of self. This is really understanding the true shadow self. See, look, I'm going to say this. This is not being judgmental. A lot of people out here talking about shadow work over the last few years. I got to keep it real with you. And then I'm not tooting my own horn and saying I'm the authority on it. But I do know there's a lot of people that are full of shit, don't know what they're talking about. Because they ain't showing you no work to do anything. Where is the work? Other than you just saying something, show the people how to do some of this stuff for themselves. This is how you unlock the hidden Gnosis of self. This is how you do real shadow work, right? People always say, I want to do, where do I start? Where do I begin? I really want to do this. Well, if you're not doing these things, then you don't really want to do this. So, go back, some of you motherfuckers ain't here, probably in church today for Palm Sunday. Just joking. All right, let's continue. Previously, impenetrable concepts might suddenly be realized. So the mind starts to open up now. And it starts to bring an awareness of thoughts you didn't even or had no clue that were there. They always were there, but you've now conditioned and disciplined your mind to receive them. See that? So now all of a sudden the psyche's open and shit phenomenon starts happening, right? Then it goes on to say, you start to experience a greater sense of one's place in it all, where you are in the scheme of these things, accompanied by an increased appreciation of all phenomena. There may even be moments that might be described as illumination or enlightenment, this is a concept very Luciferian in nature. Such experiences are indicative of having attained to around 38 hertz and above gamma. Okay? See that? Okay. So you're getting a scientific explanation how to do this for yourself. This is just basic science. This is not nobody's opinion. Anybody that deals with metaphysics, quantum physics, alchemy, that is a very important part of this path and what we do. There is science, but when we deal with phenomenon and subjective experiences, I have to keep it real with you. Not everything is going to be explained in a book. But we have to know how to put subjective experiences or spiritual phenomena experiences into perspective. We don't want to promote it where we want people to co-sign on our personal subjective experiences, because then we create these loony bin groups and new religions, right? And as I've said many times over the years, that's why I don't get on any of these videos and just start saying dumb shit like, I got a download from the ancestors. That one kills me. Everybody says that. And my question is, whose ancestors? That's a big term. Everybody in the world's ancestors that exist? Because if you start asking basic questions like, can you identify by name some of these ancestors? And if you're saying everybody's, I find that hard to believe, because I know you ain't getting no messages from my damn ancestors. I'm going to say it a million times and I'll say it again. Because you say some shit like that to me, I got questions. And if you can't answer them questions, then maybe you had a personal subjective experience. And I'm not doubting you didn't. For the people that do say that, I'm not saying they didn't have an experience. I'm saying it's dangerous to include everybody in its totality in that experience. Because I'm going to ask you, name one of my ancestors that have transitioned on by name, and what did they specifically say to you? And if you can't do it, then you need to reevaluate your statement. Okay? So we got to get away from that shit. We don't ever want to promote it where we want other people to co-sign on our personal subjective experiences. It's personal. Now, it doesn't mean you can't dialogue and converse with people who have had similar or like experience. That's different. I'm saying it's dangerous as a whole to put it out there and think everybody's supposed to agree and be in line with it and co-sign on it. But people do that shit. That's why I won't get on here ever and rant about Kali came to me, or Shango came to me, or this spirit came to me, told me this to tell all of you people, blah, blah, blah. That's some religious ass shit. And usually desperate, pathetic people fall for it because they're looking for something to latch onto. They're looking for somebody to do it for them. That need to want to belong to something, to feel like they need to be a part of something greater than themselves because they have no trust in how great they are naturally. It's just that need to belong. I need to be part of some group. I need to be under some charismatic leader so I can feel important, right? If that's you, this ain't the path for you then. And it's okay. If that's the route you want to go, knock yourself out. But don't get upset when somebody like myself or somebody else says something in opposition to that. I stand by it yesterday, I stand by it today, and I'll stand by it tomorrow. I don't follow anything or anybody, and that's a hard pill for people to swallow. I don't look at any one specific path, author, teacher, or lecturer as the sole authority on anything. You're never going to get me to see that, okay? I believe everybody brings a unique gift to the table, no doubt. I respect everybody has a certain level or skill set, and I believe everybody has a gift, but I will never get in line exclusively under one specific path or individual. Okay? If you do, you're a follower. Bottom line, there is no other way to present it. You may not like the way that sounds. You may not like the way that feels, but oh well, it is what it is. It's true. This is not what this path is about. That's not what doing for self is about. And again, as I said, it doesn't mean you can't study, read, take people's classes. You should do that. All it's saying is at some point when you are in that chamber room, you're by yourself. There's no books. There's no teacher no more. That's now where you got to show and prove. That's where you got to demonstrate your power as a magician and working magic and developing your path and your craft. When it's just you in your chamber room doing your work by yourself, there's nothing there no more. So now you got to be able to show and prove. Show and prove to who? To you. Because now that there's nothing around, now it's just you and you. So where do you stand is the question, right? All right. And then it leaves off with this magical ritual. This is going to take us right into intent. Magical ritual is the combination of the following and similar techniques to provide conditions of unwavering trance directed towards the focus of intent. That's why I started here, because now once you've attained these steps, now your intent is focused. It can be in line with your work and how you're going to do it. So let's shift to intent. This will be the last thing I discuss, and then I'll take some of your questions. All right. There's a section on page 133, Declaration of Will. What is the importance of will on the left-hand path, the occult, being a black magician or a black adept, right? Well, it is the ability to enforce your will upon a situation through magic and ritual to obtain a favorable outcome. That's what magic is, right? You do this by going into and accessing your subjective consciousness and the power of it, and then bringing that which your intent, what you desire to manifest, bringing that from the subjective consciousness or realm to the objective consciousness or realm. That is what greater black magic is. Lesser black magic is stuff as spells, magical rituals that are for elemental goals such as finances, to resolve basic life situations. That's where you'll always use what they call LBM, or lesser black magic. More than 70 to 80% of the time, you'll be using lesser black magic. Greater black magic should only be demonstrated and utilized for critical situations. Now, if you're using high levels of intense magic like that, especially destructive grade of black magic all the time, you need to check your character. Because then I find there's a group of people out there all the time who are doing all this attack magic and protection magic. And if you're doing that all the time, not only is there something wrong with people around you, there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't have to do that all the time. And also, really, it's a sign of how weak you really are. Because first of all, if you got that many motherfuckers thinking the very thoughts of launching an attack against you, they don't fear you. And your power is weak. And if you sit around spending time worrying about that all the time, that makes you even weaker. So that would explain why people who fall in that category are victims to that. And sometimes a lot of it is their mind playing tricks on them. It's not even really happening. Because anytime somebody makes that statement to me, that's the first question I ask them. What makes you think that that's going on? Give me some, information why you might think or feel like that. And usually most of it's mental paranoia and delusion. So then I got a question. These are the same people who think they're so dark and gloomy and they're so deep on this path. And then I see that everything about them is weak and pathetic. I don't spend time worrying about none of that shit. Trust you that. And if it does come up, I can tell you this with 100% surety and confidence. It's handled. And it's done with. The more energy you focus on it, the more it makes you weak. All right? So now our declaration of will and intent. Let's talk a little bit about this. Because will and intent line up side by side. One, your will, or as we hear the term willpower, you want to will something into existence. Willing something into existence has to be in line with your intent. The most crucial ingredient, listen to this, in any act of sorcery is a well-defined intent. So when you set out to do a ritual, what is your intent or intention for the ritual? All right, as I said this before, to help you understand this, let's go back to kindergarten basics because we got to do this. Some people want to be a golden Grammy multi-platinum artist because they love music. That's great. Just because you love music don't mean you can sing. I tell my wife that all the time when she's standing over there. She thinks she can sing. Now, you must have, if you want to do a magic ritual, say, to enhance being successful at being a singer, you got to at least have some talent, right? You might love singing, you might love music, but you might confuse your love for it for not understanding your lack of or your level of talent. So you might go into a ritual thinking, I'm going to do this ritual to get a record contract. And then you do it, it don't come because you didn't really look at the intent and say, is this practical? Do I have some talent there? So what I'm saying is your intent, there should be something there out the gate that you can build on. So practicality is important when working spiritual rituals. Okay? All right, no offense, but let me give you another example. It's like somebody who doesn't take care of themselves. They might just be tore up from the head up. They might just be all out of whack, whether it's physically, visually, and then they might want to do a ritual to find the most beautiful person in the world. But they're not looking at themselves. They ain't taking care of themselves. So how can you just be tore up from head to toe, but you want to go do some ritual to find your soulmate, and you can't find your soulmate, and then you're not addressing the fact, look at you, you're not all together. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but you're just not all together. So that your intent is not in line. See that? See how that works? See, this is the reality of this path. See, other people will tell you hocus pocus bullshit stories. They'll do a ritual, light some candles, burn some incense, put an offering there, and everything's going to be fixed. That shit ain't going to work. Trust me when I tell you it don't work. Yeah, I know there's somebody out there because I can hear your voice. Oh, I do it because I'm so special. You think. I guarantee if we had a deeper conversation, we'll see what's really there. I guarantee you there's no long history of consistency doing that shit. All right, so let's continue on. This in itself is a powerful act of self-programming. All right? Even without any further acts of sorcery, the better defined our intentions are, and the clearer our mental image of their potential, the greater our chances of attainment. You see that? clarity of intent, it being in line, it being practical, you have a greater chance of getting the results. State your will clearly and succinctly in a single sentence or word. See, that's the other thing I find people, when they try to put their intent out there, it's too complex. I want to do this so I can get this and that, and if I get this, I'm meant to do this and blah, blah, and you're like, what? Have a simple declaration or statement to enforce your will. So if it's something like, I want to improve my overall health. See, I'm doing this work to open up the awareness to improve my overall health. Simple, to the point, straight and direct. And then if you're working and communicating with a specific deity or spirit you're trying to unlock, it now makes that clear. But when you just get into this drawn out, overdoing it shit, that can be overkill. And I find people do that. All right. Also, an important factor is probabilities. This is the part people don't like this part here. I can tell you this. Although occasionally the most outrageous results may be achieved. That's what I was talking about earlier. Occasionally. I'm not saying you might just go on the fly and randomly do a ritual. And yeah, there are things where out of the blue, it just might work. But we're not looking for momentary success. We're looking for consistency. All right. Casting for the implausible may only go so far as making them highly unlikely or at best merely improbable. Sorcery may theoretically be employed for anything at all, but only if approached from the right angle. The declaration should always be divined upon regarding its wisdom. It may sometimes be the case that an immediate desire will have unforeseen effects in the longer term, or there may be other factors of which we are unaware that may affect the situation. And this is why I say people may not be aware of those factors, and they may go access a deity like Kali, like Sekhmet, like Set, like Lucifer, like Lilith, that brings about very intense changes on an emotional and a spiritual level. Because the person did not do their research and leave the door open, or the probability of that happening, good or bad, they can kind of get taken back by it because they didn't understand what they were doing. Okay. The formulated declaration of will should be included in the structure, in the structure of the incantation to be cast. So basically saying, know what the fuck you're doing and be clear. So, all right, let me go back into something I talked a while back. For an example, in the hoodoo pantheon, right? Some work with the aspect of Saint Expedite, who some synchronize with an aspect of the barons, right? People who have been known to work with Saint Expedite, because his name has root in the word to expedite, expeditious, fast. He is known a spirit to produce fast results, right? But when a lot of people over the years in their documented work with him, going back, hundreds to when this path first came out to modern day times, have noticed if you're not specific in your declaration of intent, it can come a million ways. For an example, you might say you want to obtain an X amount of money of wealth, and you weren't clear how you wanted to obtain that. So all of a sudden, one of your aunts gets terminally ill and leaves you an inheritance. You didn't realize, because you wasn't clear with the spirit, you're getting that inheritance through the death of somebody else because you didn't state. So you might want to say, I want a business opportunity to arise so I can obtain this X amount of wealth. Now it's clear. So the spirit will now, but if you ain't clear to a devouring energy like that, it's going to work its way the way it sees fit, regardless if you're in line with it or not. You might say that you want to, obtain, reaching a certain desired goal, let's say to open a business or something, and you may not have been clear on that. And then what could happen is your current status can get turned upside down to clear the way for that new business. You have intent. I use the Saint Expedite example. Because that's a good way to see it. So declaration of intent is very important. I think you get the picture. It should be stated clearly at the beginning of the ritual. And if it's in a group ritual, it should strongly be affirmed by all present. And I make that clear in all the ritual work I do in groups. This is the purpose of the ritual. This is why we do it. All right, almost done here. And then I'm going to go to the chat for questions and comments. The declaration of will also provides the basis for magical gestures, litanies, ritual theater, music, or any artistic expression that engages the imagination and communicates the message to the absolute. The following considerations apply in formulating an effective, here's is important, declaration of will. Consider these things. The intent should be large enough to provide motivation and probable enough to be realistic. So let's be real. You're not going to light a candle and do a ritual to get $1 million tomorrow. Is that realistic? And then you can get really super spooky and go, whoa, I thought you could do anything on this page. Yes, you can, within reason. And some things, it's a process and it takes time. So don't come back door with that bullshit. That's not being realistic, and the probability of that happening is probably next to none. See, we said this is a path of self-mastery, not a path of fucking fairy tales and Disney stories and illusions. This isn't, I'm going to rub the genie Aladdin lamp and all my wishes are going to come true. That's not how this works, okay? That's just not real, people, all right? Next step. We got 4 more here, and then we're done. State what is desired in the positive rather than what is not desired. Some people spend time in their rituals expressing what they don't want to happen. That's a mistake. Don't focus on that, because then you're drawing energy to it. Focus on what you do want to happen, right? Then it goes on to say, as the unconscious mind cannot process negations, i.e. declare your intent for health rather than not being sick. You see that? So if you're doing a ritual for health, don't go, please, I don't want to be sick anymore. Remove this. I don't want this to happen anymore. Just say, I simply want overall health and prosperity. And I want to be, that energy to be built up around me to prevent any illnesses, sicknesses, ailments, or injuries to come to me. That's different. Okay? That's the point. Okay? Then the next step. Goals are more likely to be achieved if placed in an appropriate context. When, where, and with whom. Again, further clarity on your intent. You must be specific, okay? If possible, the statement should be sensory specific. State what you will see, hear, or feel when the outcome is attained. And then the last thing, and this is important, you should do all this prior to setting out and doing your ritual. You should understand this before doing all your ritual work. Consider all the consequences of attainment, and I just went through that. Will you lose what you have in order to get what you want? Let me say that again. Will you lose what you have in order to get what you want? Most people will say yes, but that's not the case. Are you willing to accept the loss? Okay? That completes that. All right? So just a little bit of information and knowledge here, just to assist you in your intent, unlocking the hidden Gnosis of yourself, how to approach it. And I'm not saying you need to use it word verbatim as I just described. I'm just giving you some information of how you can take it and see how you can apply that to yourself, okay? All right, let's go up. I'm going to go to the top of the chat. There's not too much stuff here. So I'm going to tell you this. I'm just going to go through the comments and questions in the chat. So if you have a question, now would be the time to type it in, because once I get through this, I'm going to wrap it up. All right. All right. So infernal blessings to all. I'm just going to skip that part. All right. All right. Comment. Fluff Fusion. Appreciate that you love the show. Yes, I have. Demonology probably is one of the main books from S. Conley. I have read some of S. Conley's books. Yes, I have. Jenny says, I guess that comment was earlier in when I was talking about how some of us constantly have an influx of thoughts and the mind is constantly racing and running. That's usually a normal characteristic with people on this path because they're working with so much energy. But I want to stress again the importance. You must take periods. You must do periods of work to still the mind. You must be able to go into that mental silence so you can really tap into the real you. Because that's when the concrete thoughts start to emerge. A lot of those, we got to be real, not all of our thoughts are really productive and necessary. We are a byproduct of those things. But in that mental silence, you're able to in that stillness, you're able to separate and decipher, all right, these things are more important. I need to focus and concentrate on this. Let me dumb down and just kind of push these thoughts to the side. It's a very common characteristic of people on this path. It's a common characteristic. We must learn to discipline that so we can obtain the thoughts, separate the proper thoughts that we really need to focus on more. All right. Miss Mastic says, I sit in silence all of the time. That's a great thing. It's a great skill. And if you have that, I would tell you to continue to do that. Okay, shout out to Mystic Moons. That's a good thing. And further comment by Miss Mastic. If you guys didn't see it, I'm going to read it. I think this is a great comment too. I can't even function on a day-to-day if I don't set a time to just sit in complete silence. I do it at least for a few minutes, at minimum a day, and I can agree with that 100%. She's right. It almost is a recharging. I know if I'm in my office and it's been a stressful day, always every day at some point, because I'm in my office a lot of periods of points during the day, but maybe it's a hectic day. I've been doing a lot of work on the computer. I've been dealing with a lot of people. I always take that time to decompress. I like to use the word decompress and recharge, because sometimes you know what's funny? You know what this brings to mind? I know you guys probably I've been seeing it the last year or two, that app they advertise on TV, Quiet, where it tells you it's an app where it plays something for like 30 seconds to a minute, where it tells you to just relax and be silent. It almost reminds me of that. And as something so very simple as that, as basic and simple as that may seem, it can be very invigorating and rejuvenating. So that is a great practice. I would suggest everybody really try it. Just take at least a few minutes a day of just clearing your mind and sitting in silence. I find even doing it in a dark room is even more effective. But I know obviously you're not always going to be in a position to do that. But at least practice the mental silence, the mental stillness. And see, as you develop that skill and that discipline, how that really starts to help you and branch out into your other spiritual practices, because it's going to create a personal inner discipline in your work. Trust me when I tell you. You're only going to know that if you actually attempt to practice it. Gypsy Mermaid says, beautiful Sunday, I'm in my pool, and this is perfect. All right, well, that's cool. Awesome. All right. Talk Will said, I think this is what I was talking about earlier. I'm pretty sure. I noticed that always looking for examples and a lot of folks get nothing. I think that was in reference to earlier when I was talking about how there's a lot of people talking about a lot of topics and information and consciousness in general, but when there's no work to back it up, there's no, rituals or documented work where one can engage in to get the results for themselves. It's usually geared, that person or that charismatic speaker or that organization has an agenda that they want you to get in line with. Follow me, follow this dogma. You need to do it this way. You need to join, and then you'll become, promising you all this, shit that is really you can obtain on your own. So yes, this is a path about action, doing work. So my thing is, when you run into a lot of these know-it-alls who think they know it all, they've read a bunch of books, and I could smell them a mile away. And believe me, I could sit here all day going back over 25 years and tell you all the books I've read, from ancient Egypt to alchemy to magic to ancient history to the occult. I could be here all day talking about it. I can turn this camera around And the library I have behind me would probably blow you away. I could probably start my own library. I could take you into the garage where I got stuff stored in crates. But guess what? You know what? It doesn't mean shit. Because all those books and all that knowledge in this humongous library I have doesn't mean shit if I can't take that information I'm studying and reading and apply it. So you can sit here and think you're going to wow me to death with your knowledge. Then I go, all right, so first thing I say, and not from a judgmental perspective, let me look at this person overall. What kind of lifestyle are they leading? Are they successful? Do they have a good life? And I'm not just gauging it on finances, but finances is a part of it. Is your life in order? Do you have a good relationship with self and others? Are you successful on a business level, right? Are you an example of the shit you talk about? And do I see it in your character, your personality, your behavior, your body language, your verbiage, right? If I don't see any of that stuff, then I say, this is a motherfucker that just read a bunch of books. So I don't care how deep you can go with book knowledge. It means absolutely nothing. It just means you got a lot of book knowledge. And I can do that. If I wanted to start a channel and just doing feel good, fuzzy, warm lectures, I could do it. And for those that have been with me over 20 plus years, you know from back in the day, I started on that old school system. There was no social media. Okay. There was none of this, right? You know, everybody's big and bold, hiding behind a keyboard, not identifying themselves and talk a bunch of shit. But there's nobody. I come from the era of face-to-face open discussions and debates. Okay. There was no computer, social media. I come from the era up north, setting up tables, being out in the public, selling books, just talking with people as they walk up. I find that to be the most effective tool. I've always been a people person, dialoguing and teaching people face-to-face. I've only been on this since, 2013? And people would tell me to get with the program, get with the sign of the times. I'm an older head. And this is a powerful tool. Don't get me wrong. Social media is a great thing when it's used as a productive tool to learn and teach. But it's also a fuckery thing. It's also a place for cowards, punks, bitches, and people that think they know shit to hide behind a keyboard with these creative avatars and nicknames. You know, these motherfuckers with Set, Heru, Ang, Ahmed, Mohammed. You know, they got to include every path. Shango, Heru, Lilith. You know, they got all these creative, charismatic names, and then they put a nice picture on the avatar. It doesn't mean fucking thing to me. I've invited people for open debates and discussion. They don't show up. You see, I always used to put the call-in number up. Nobody calls in. Because if you call in, you're going to identify yourself. And then I even went a step further. I'll be on Zoom and invite people to come in visually on Zoom. Let everybody see you. What you hiding behind the computer for? Let everybody see you. Show your face, state your name. Because if I'm going to put myself here openly, you see me. I ain't hiding. Okay? And I have no problem if you want to meet face-to-face. We can meet face-to-face. I ain't got no problem. But you're going to do the same. You're not going to sit there and hide behind a keyboard like a little punk bitch and not identify yourself. I don't even entertain that. All I do is just kick your ass out the room. But you must be an example, all right? To Talk Will's question. I think that's what you were referring to, hopefully. All right, so what else we got? So this is a question from Chunky. I like that name. Is it dangerous to mix the worship of Set and the practice of West African voodoo? Yes and no. Let me explain. Let me be clear on this. A good question. I've always been in line using the concept. You can work with as many systems and paths as you want. There's no limitation. I know a lot of traditionalists will say, oh, if you are practicing West African voodoo, you shouldn't use this. If you're initiated in Ifa, you can't do that. Everything is you can, you can't, you shouldn't, you wouldn't, I couldn't. That's all bullshit. What I would suggest, though, for your own personal understanding, I wouldn't mix the systems in together simultaneously. What do I mean by that? So this is why I say yes and no. I want to be clear on this. Yes, you can work with both of them. I wouldn't do a West African voodoo ritual and include something with Set in it. If I was working with Set, it would be a ritual designed specifically with Set, especially the Set Typhonian current. And if I was doing a ritual with the Loa or the Voodoo deities, I would keep it in context with that. That's just me. I'm not saying you can't, because you can do whatever you want. Anybody can do whatever they so desire. That's bottom line facts. I'm saying from personal experience, it can cause a disruption in energies on a subconscious level, mentally. I've found in some, it can create internal discords, and it can create physical effects. Sickness, not feeling right, headaches. There's a physical aspect to it, but also a mental disconnect. It can be too much for the mental mind to absorb simultaneously. Now, again, if you're a person out there that doesn't see no problem, I think a lot of it is how you absorb energy, connect with energy. I find I connect easy with a lot of these energies, and if I do, it's like taking it's like a ball of dynamite. You're mixing this powerful formula. It's like a scientist in the mad lab, and you're mixing explosives. That would just be my suggestion. I'm not saying you or anybody else has to do it like that, but if you're asking, I can only give you an answer to a question like that based on my experience. I don't do it. I work with both of those paths you described, but I keep them in their own context. That's basically essentially what I'm saying. So hopefully that helps you. Okay. Let's go on. What else we got? Hold on. Things skipped on me. Oh, damn. Hold on one sec. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, that was a good question, though, Chunky. That was a good question. Yeah, and I know to Gypsy Mermaid's answer. Yeah, we don't want to approach worship in the sense we want to remember we're walking side by side with these deities. I just want to expound on that. And I'm not saying you're doing this, Chunky, or anybody listening. I just want to address it. Remember that these spirits, these archetypes, they're looking for a certain level of intelligence. I did a video not too long ago, a few months ago. This is about walking side by side with these energies. It's about unlocking the understanding of them in their mind, but working with them side by side. When we don't want to worship in this sense, and I'm speaking in general, not that you were saying worship in regards to that, Chunky, but I just want to be clear on this. We don't want to grovel before these deities, begging with them, bargaining with them, making deals, because then that's religion. Again, this goes back to what we were just talking about, making sure our intent is defined and clear, and it's practical, it's probable, and it's realistic. Okay, very important. All right. But I think you get the point. Okay, Logan Scott's got a question here. He says, peace, Brother Beniti. I struggle with consistency in general. Well, let me say this, brother. You and a million other people. Could you provide any guidance on how to overcome this issue? Well, you probably typed this question in earlier. I think the steps I just went through, that's kind of what I was trying to. If you're doing these things, and I know this question probably came earlier. I don't know what time you came in to the room. Watch this video from the beginning. There's other videos on the channel that talk about, how to begin and start on this path to get that consistency. Not from a beginner's perspective. These are everything that I'm talking about in this video today are those steps to obtain consistency, because you have to be taking these steps. So now you have tools to gauge your progress. And not only do you have tools to gauge your progress, you have now steps and things to identify areas that you need to address. So shadow work is always, or the hidden Gnosis itself is always a great place to start. Talk Will, where can we find good examples of shadow work? Well, this book is one of them. The Neuronomicon. I mean, it's scattered in book. Here's a great book, a good foundational book for shadow work, and I use this in my mentorship program, is The Alchemy for Personal Transformation, the Emerald Tablets of Tahuti. And the author's name is Dennis William Huck, H-A-U-C-K. That is a great work for understanding the shadow process through using Hermeticism or alchemy. I take it a little step further in the program because I use what we call dark alchemy, but I would use, that is a great book from back to front to help you really unlock that shadow work or that shadow energy. Okay. P-Funk, I think you asked about that in the past, and I'm sorry I've not got around to it. Santa Martha the Dominator. Yes, I actually have on my hoodoo altar, I have a statue. I do work with Santa Martha the Dominator. Do me a favor, maybe you have and it went in the junk box. Send me an email. Maybe I can do a video focusing on, that, but also maybe incorporate some of the other system in there. Send me an email and I'll definitely make a note of that if you haven't already. Okay. Pamela Lilly says, what books do you recommend for someone just starting out? Good question. Again, the one book I just mentioned, if you're still here, I would also always recommend as a foundational tool to have in that reading toolbox, the Kabbalion, not the Kabbalah, the Kabbalion, K-Y-B-A-L-L-I-O-N, the Kabbalion by the Three Initiates, which is basically a thorough breakdown of the 7 Hermetic principles of Tahuti. I would also look at, not that everything in there is current, it's a little bit outdated, I would get you a Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, because the Book of Belial probably is the piece of the Satanic Bible that I think is timeless, because it really, a lot of the stuff we're talking about here today, intent, there's a section in there called the Satanic Ingredients, the Black Magic, that shows you how to formulate your intent and things of that nature. A lot of this similar to what we were talking about just now. That's another great foundational tool. Now there's some other stuff in there. It's a little outdated, but I'd read the whole thing in its entirety, but I would really focus on the section in there, the Book of Belial, a great section. I think will give you some foundational information. I would start with those 3 books. Those are good books, in my opinion, to start out with. All right, Gypsy Mermaid says, as I'm here in the water, I do swim, I know holding my breath, and I do float, so it made me think on how you tell someone to let go. Okay. Vision TG says, yeah, I had the monkey mind working these energies, and the Moloch ritual helped a lot. Okay, good. Gypsy Mermaid says, some people can get to alpha state first time, some people can't relax if their life there. That's true. And again, that's everything we were talking about earlier. Those techniques will help if you're a person who struggles with that. Okay. Mystic Moon says, regards to thoughts, most of our thoughts are external, planted there by marketing / social media, etc. Like how much of our thoughts are actually ours? Well, that's the whole purpose of doing that sitting in silence, because you're going to be able to differentiate how much of your thoughts are externally influenced by the things you just described. Because once you clear those things away, as you just described, then the more important thoughts take precedence. They become clear. They become important. That's the whole point. That is an excellent point. And this is why people struggle to focus and concentrate, because they're so highly influenced by all those external thoughts. Okay? Social media, the news, all those things are huge distractions, and we don't realize how they program us on a subconscious level. And it doesn't mean don't watch the news and don't be on social media. It means be able to decipher what you really need to. This is why some stuff I label as pure nonsense. I won't even waste my time and watch it. This is why I'm not a Facebook person, because most people on Facebook are superficial and they post nonsensical bullshit. I don't want to hear about just left a restaurant. I don't want to hear about just bought a TV, vacationing in the Bahamas. Now, while you telling everybody you out away, you just announced to the world, come rob my house. I didn't think about that part. But I just don't think, to me, people that do that have insecurities where they need to get on Facebook and announce everything they do. It's just, to me, it's ridiculous. It's just they're screaming for attention. I need attention. Look at me. I just got a new bag from the mall. And let me take a picture of it. Just going on this vacation. Oh, my husband just bought me this. Who gives a shit? Like some people, the first thing they do, they got to get up in the morning and get on their social media account. That's how addicted they are and how influenced they are by social media. Before they even start, the first thing they want to do, like, you ever hear people get, like, I see it, good morning, Facebook family. Fuck you. I got other important shit to do, like go make some money. I don't need to be on this bullshit. Okay? But anyway, you get the point. Yes, that's a good point, though. You can, the external influence of those distractions, that's the purpose of getting in tune with your thoughts and sitting in silence. Mitchell Ford says that stillness empowers the mind too. I be feeling like I can do/get through anything and solve problems at a higher level because you're focused. That's why. The focus is there, the thoughts are clear, and the concentration level accelerates. That's a great thing. Tyso, how important is semen retention on this path? It's only as important as you feel the necessity of it. If you're working with that level of it and dealing, let's say, with sex magic, they say there's power in that. It's all based on how you're working with it and for what purpose. Now, if you're torturing yourself to do it, what is the point of the torture? Some people do it to test their strengths and how much they can endure. You can apply that to maybe just disciplining yourself from removing any bad habit, let's just say. But in a case like that, to your question, some people use it as a magical tool, and they use that retention to charge up their magical intent. And then after they're retaining it for such a long period of time, they feel that when it's released, it attains more magical power. I'm just giving basic examples. That does all depend on the purpose, even when you tie that into that retention into celibacy. Celibacy is a form of sex magic that people don't understand. Okay? It's there. It's fact. Matter of fact, I think it's in Father Sebastian's original Vampire Magic book. He goes in depth into that, the retention aspect and celibacy. So again, it is part of this path. It's personal, and it's all based on how you decide to use it. That's all. So there's a lot of dynamics to that, but it can be used as a magical tool. It's only important as far as what is your purpose and intent for you. Is it necessary? Is it something you must do? No, but you should have some type of discipline over it to a degree. Not to the point if you're forcing yourself to do it and there's no intent there, then I don't see the purpose of doing it. Okay, what else we got? I'm going to try to get to some of the questions. Oh, Brother Jack. What's going on, Jack? Damn, hold on. Thing jumped on me. Okay, here we go. What's going on, Brother Jack? Jack says, true silence is true hearing / listening. True indeed. Let's get the conversation. If you see me. Mitchell Ford says, facts, books are cool, but walking this path is where it's at. Indescribable, something one has to start for themselves and see personally. Totally agree. Let that Star said it is also a form of respect not to mix the path during rituals. I agree. It is. One, respect for yourself also, and respect for the energies that you're working with. And I agree with that. And I want to be careful how I word that. Not respect that you're worshiping, but yes, you must approach some of these demons and spirits with respect, because it can get out of hand. Okay, because once you manifest the power of this, you got to understand what you're working with. Okay, a good point. I agree. Definitely agree with that. Mitchell Ford agrees with the analogy. Chunky says, excellent explanation. Thank you for your insight. No problem. As long as that helps. Ebony Angel 88 says meditation is the key for that to happen. True indeed. Logan Scott says, give thanks. All right. Oh, what else we got here? Almost there, people. All right, a good comment by Jack. Individuals on the left-hand pathway, high IQs often tend to make greater impact on their own lives and the lives of others. Getting smarter is the key. There ain't nothing to add to that. Yeah, I have talked. Kenneth MC says, can you talk about creating your own deity? Well, I've talked about that a lot. I've done videos. There's a servitor videos I did on that. Servitors, creating servitors would be one form of that. Connecting with your personal daemon is another form of that, because that opens you up to other ancestral spirits. But when I say ancestral spirits, they may not be deities or spirits that are mainstream that one might be familiar with, because you do have some of those that were genetically created through your DNA and your genetics. But a good beginning process to understand something like that is understanding how to create servitors. And I've done videos on it. There's a lot of books out there on that. The general outline of what and how to create a servitor would be a good roadmap to use how to create your own deities. Definitely. Okay. What else we got? Vision TG. Yeah, I know you're on the Patreon. Are you coming in through? All right, so Vision TG, let me just make sure. When we're doing the ritual we did Friday night, okay, you have to go to, and I put out either a message or a short preparation video to let you know how to access. Now, in the original post, but if you're on that tier, and I know you are, all you have to do is go to the original post that the ritual was put up, and there is the Zoom link. And the day of the ritual and the time, you should just be able to click that link and get right in. So I'm not sure what's happening. Send me a message through the Patreon app and let me know what's happening, because now Friday night, some crazy shit happened. I'm going to explain that. I'm going to be putting a video on the Patreon page to all you guys. So if you're talking about Friday night, there was some crazy shit that happened with that on Friday. I'm not going to talk about here. But anyway, if it's something outside of that, please send me a message through the Patreon app. Let me know what issue you are experiencing so I can address that, especially since, that's part of your membership. But you should be able to get in if you're going to the original post and accessing the link to the ritual right before we go live. And I should see you come in the room and let you in. So just let me know if you're having a problem with that. I would like to know so I can fix that, okay? What else we got? Okay, so Lilith Astor says, I've been celibate for 3 years. So true. So again, it's personal. If that's the path you choose, that's the path you choose. And that's part of this path. Some people, choose to do that, and that's okay. All right, what else we got? I'm trying to get to some questions because I got to wrap this up. P Funk. Oh shit, P Funk. Shoot me an email, P Funk. It's in the description box, and I will send you a full list of all the readings and how much they charge, how much I charge for them. There's all different ones. So it'll be easy if you just email me at khnum19@gmail.com. Just say requesting prices for readings, and I'll send you the email, okay? What else we got? Manuel, I know you're in the mentorship program. Bring that question up in our next conversation, and I have to get back to you. Look for something today to confirm. I know you want to get together, do something, but we'll talk further about that. Rose Sanchez says, hi, embarrassing to say, but I was previously being a servant to Santa Muerte because that's how I was taught. Okay. I dropped that mindset since coming upon your videos. I began watching. Good. Well, if you came through like most people, their initial introduction to her is through the Catholicism aspect. So it probably wasn't by your fault, because most people get introduced through it. And a lot of people who are devotees of Santa Muerte that come from that Catholicism background usually have that mindset or approach. Now, I'm not knocking them, but I draw the line where, you'll have people say, oh, if you work with Santa Muerte, you can only work with her. You can't do nothing. I just find that to be not true. And just to be simple without staying on it too long, as you know, and other people know that follow my channel, I work with more of her ancient aspect as a Mayan and Aztec goddess of the underworld, because that's her indigenous origins. And if you talk to a lot of indigenous tribal people who belong to that culture, they're actually very offended by the watered down modern Catholicism aspect that she's become in modern day times, because that's not really in essence who she is. Now, I'll use some of the modern day imagery of her through her Reaper image because there's powerful symbolism, but I basically have filtered out all the traditional stuff. Now, if you work it and you're watching this, I'm not telling you you can't. But what I am saying is that is not the only way. And if anybody says, oh, that's not true, you can't do that, I got results to say otherwise. And all I care about is the results. So I can attest that that's not true. But it's good that you drop that. All right. All right. Jack says connecting left and right hemisphere of the brain is paramount. Binaural beats and monatomic gold is good to raise intelligence. Yes, and I do use the monatomic gold. The powder form under the tongue before you sleep. And again, it's something you should take after eating or before eating. It will enhance your dreams and it helps your proper functioning of the brain, like Jack is talking about. And yes, the binaural beats with noise cancellation headphones are very powerful to raise that vibration. We've talked about that over the years, but good input, Jack. That was good information. All right, what else we got? In a nutshell, what Mr. Moon says, what energies, demons would you test when seeking guidance when launching a business? Well, I can tell you something more that the gold aspect is no joke. That's my go-to. I've almost dropped everything else. You can use Set Typhoon. Kali works very effective with that. Anything that removes obstacles and blockages to obtain goals can work with that. And here's one that most people don't know because it's never talked about, Bilal. There's an aspect of Bilal that deals with earthly and materialistic things. So just some quick suggestions there. All right, Vision, appreciate it. Definitely reach out to me. I want to make sure I fix that if there's an issue. Okay. All right, what else we got? P-Funks, again, how you know you're communicating? The results. It's that simple. Whatever you're communicating with the spirit about, you should be able to see the results. Now, if you're not seeing it clearly, sometimes it takes time. It takes discipline. Sometimes it comes in stages. But and overall, the simple answer to that question is you're seeing the results of what you're communicating. That's it. Yeah, Rose, I would check out the Patreon page. Is where I do a lot of private classes and rituals. And again, it's patreon.com. I'm going to put it in the chat. Check out the Patreon page. It's tier 2 level, which gives you access to all the classes. That's $13 a month. I do one class a month on there, sometimes more. And then there's tier 3, which is $25 a month. And that gives you access to we do a ritual once a month, a group ritual, and the classes. So that's probably a good tier for you to start with because it'll give you access to a lot of things that I don't talk about really here. So I'm going to put it in for all that's it, patreon.com/Beniti. All right. Mitchell Ford says, I think we're at the end here. Mitchell Ford says, working with King Bilal has helped me with business. And I'm glad you put that in there. It's good I see this. Legal factors, channeling anger and passion towards those goals with him, Mystic Moon. Good. That's exactly. And I'm glad you put that in there. And most people don't work with Bilal in that context. Why? I don't know. You should, because it's very effective. All right. All right. I think that's it. We're going to wrap it up. I appreciate it. Before I go again, if anything I mentioned in the beginning, if you're interested in a spiritual consultation, a spiritual reading, the ones I do, telepathic demonic readings, ancient Egyptian deity readings, voodoo hoodoo readings, shadow work readings. If you're interested in any of them, shoot me an email, spiritual consultation. If you are interested in classes, rituals, we have the upcoming class Saturday, African Witchcraft and Sorcery. The Patreon members, you automatically have access. If you're not a Patreon member, you can sign up for that class. All you have to do is go to the Instagram or the Facebook. The information is there. It is $56 for that class. You can pay by PayPal or you can pay by Cash App. The information is right on there. You can sign up until Saturday morning. That's this upcoming Saturday. And any of the other events, if you need to contact me, you got my email. The Journey of the Black Adept Conference, all that coming up in October. You know where to reach me. And again, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Beniti. I appreciate everybody for supporting the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back when I'm going to be back. I don't know when that is. Just busy doing a lot of things, work-wise and personal-wise. So I try to get on here now and then when I can. All right? Infernal blessings to all and peace in the sense that positive energy always creates elevation. We'll talk soon.